Okay, so as I was saying, the only difference between today's opener and your quiz is that each line has its own coordinate plane, which makes it a little bit easier for you guys to determine which line goes with what. The first thing I'm going to do is find my line A. My line A is in red up here on the board, and I'm going to go through and I'm going to find my lattice points. I always start at the left side of my grid, and then I go right to find my lattice points. Remember, the lattice points is where that line crosses right where the grid lines intersect. So I'm going to have a lattice point here, and I keep rolling up my line. I'm going to have a lattice point here. I have another lattice point, if I keep going, which is here. It does not truly matter which lattice point you use. You could use the first lattice point and the third lattice point. You could use the first lattice point and the second lattice point. You could really even use the second lattice point and the third lattice point. It does not matter which one you use as long as you always start with your left. So you're always going to go left to right. Okay? So I'm going to start with my first lattice point on the left here, and I'm going to first find my rise. So my rise means I'm either going to count up or down to my next lattice point. Well, in this circumstance, I'm going to have to count up. So how many grid lines or spots am I going to move up to? 1, 2. So my slope is going to be, my rise is going to be 2. And then my run, I'm going to count over how many spots? 3. So my slope of line A is 2 over 3. Because I used the lattice points that were closest together, I didn't have to worry about simplifying at all. So my answer is going to be 2 over 3. Then I go to line B. Line B, what kind of slope does it have automatically looking at it? What kind of slope is line B going to have by just looking at it? A negative. So what I would do, I would immediately go and put my negative in as my rise. I know it's going to have a negative slope, so I'm going to put that negative in there so I don't forget about it. And then I'm going to go through and I'm going to find my lattice points for line B. My lattice points for line B, I'm going to color in green. Okay? So, you always start at your lattice point to the furthest left in order to find your rise over your run. So, I'm looking at my grid, I'm going to the left. The first lattice point I'm going to hit is the one that's up above, the one that's higher up. So now I'm going to find my rise. So my rise, I'm going to count up or down to get to my next one. Down. So I'm going to go down how many spots?
3.
Good. So my rise is going to be 3, and we already know it's a negative. We already put our negative there. And then my run is going to be 1. Now, I want you guys to keep that 1 as a denominator, as a bottom number there, because I want the slope to show rise over run. Now, if you wanted to put it in simplest form, we'd get rid of that 1, but I don't want it in simplest form right now. Okay? Moving on to line C. Line C up on the opener is going to be the green line. Looking at line C, is it going to have a positive or a negative slope? Positive or a negative? If I go to the top right here, and I have my skis on, am I going to just slide right on down it? Yeah, so I'm not going to get much of a workout, so it's going to be a negative slope. So because I know it's going to be a negative, I'm going to go ahead and put my negative as my rise. Then I'm going to go through, I'm going to find my lattice points. Do you all understand what I mean when I say lattice points? Is anybody unclear of what I mean by a lattice point? Okay, so I'm going to go through, I'm going to find my lattice points. If you don't know, and you just don't want to speak up because you don't want to feel like that person that doesn't know, ask me when I'm going through group to group. Okay, so this line has 3 lattice points that's labeled on the coordinate plane. I'm going to use my one that starts to the furthest left as my starting point. I'm going to count down to my next one. So I just said we're going to count down. How many places am I going to count down?
1.
1. So my rise is going to be 1. Then my run will be 4. So the slope of line C will be negative 1/4. Then at the very bottom, we have line D. Well, line D is going to intersect with every single vertical grid line. So just looking at line D, you should be able to tell me what type of slope this is going to have. If it's just a horizontal line, it's going to have a slope of, I heard it, 0. So all you have to write is 0. That's your final answer. Now, what if I took line D and I rotated it so it was just a straight up vertical line? It went straight up and down. Undefined, right. So if I took that line D from the horizontal and turned it so it was straight up and down vertical, then that would be undefined. Okay? Yes? What? Sorry. Yeah. Okay. Flip your opener over to the back side. So flip your opener over to the back side. The back side of your opener, you're still finding the slope, but this time you're finding the slope of ordered pairs. So you have to use a formula to find the slope. What's the formula I'm going to use to find the slope of each of these ordered pairs?
Y2.
Wait. What do I start with though?
M equals
Yes. M equals
Y2 minus Y1. And then X2 minus X1.
Okay, good. Now I notice some of you guys are flipping your X's and Y's. You're doing your X's on top and your Y's on bottom. That's going to get your slope upside down. Your Y's are on top. Your X's are on bottom. So, first thing I'm going to do is label my ordered pairs. Ordered pairs are made up of which variables? Of what variables? What variables do I use to represent my ordered pair?
X and Y.
Yeah, X and Y. So my X comes first because this is my first ordered pair. It'll be X1. Y comes second, but since it's my first ordered pair, it's going to be Y1. Then I'm going to do the same thing with my next ordered pair, but because they're second, they're going to be labeled X2, Y2. Now, all I have to do, or all you have to do, is drop down, put your M, and then you just plug in the numbers for the corresponding variable. So if we have Y2, what's the number I substitute for Y2? 9. Here's where some of you guys are getting confused. You have to include the operation sign that's in your formula. So what's the operation sign in my formula? A minus. Then you look at your Y1. What's the number I substitute for Y1? 4. Okay, over. Now I go down to my bottom. What do I substitute for my X2? What's my operation sign? And then X1. 1. Now, because there's no negatives and my subtraction signs touching, I'm just going to go ahead and solve. So what's 9 minus 4? What's 5 minus 1? Okay. Now, if you would type 5 over 4 into your calculator, you're going to get 1 1/4. I don't want a mixed number. So all you would have to do then is hit the second button and the fraction button and the equal button, and you'll get back to 5 over 4, which basically means 5 over 4 can't be reduced. It can't be simplified. So this here is your final answer. You have a bad hair day every day. Why is today any different? I'm sorry. You are my favorite person to make fun of, and I know that's not nice. And it doesn't look bad. No, it doesn't. Do you have feelings?
No.
All right. Okay, so we come down to the second ordered pair. Again, first thing I'm going to do is label them. X1. Let me fix my pen here. Y1. Then I'm going to do X2, Y2. Drop down. I start my formula off with M, because M stands for slope. You will need to remember that for next week. Now, what do I substitute for Y2? Negative 10. What's my operation sign? Subtract. Then what's my Y1? Now, bless you. Because we put negative 10 minus negative 4, Normally, you would then put parentheses around that -4. Just because you don't like those signs, double signs like that touching. Now, because it's a double sign, like a negative and a subtraction sign, or you could look at it as two negatives, we change them into a what type of sign? A plus or a positive. Okay? So that's my top. Now my bottom, what do I substitute for y2? 5. What's my operation sign? Subtract. Then what do I substitute for x1? -3. Again, do I have the same signs touching? Or right next to each other, yes. So I change it to a positive. So now I solve. So what's -10 plus 4? I heard a couple different things. -6.
-6.
Okay? Then what's 5 plus 3? 8. Am I finished with this problem? I have to reduce it. So what's 6 and 8 reduced down to? -3 over 4. That's right. Good. What if the negative would have been at the bottom? Yeah, we just bring it to the top. But what if you went to type in your calculator 6 fraction button -8? Could you do that? No, because you're not allowed to have a negative in the denominator. All right, last one. Label my ordered pairs. I'm going to put in my slope sign, m equals. All right, what do I substitute for y2? Operation sign, y1 over x2. Operation sign, x1. Okay, 2 minus 8, -6. 1 minus 3, 2 negatives become a, okay, so I'm just going to get rid of the negatives. So what's 6 over 2 simplified? No. 2 negatives equal a? So when you go to type in your calculator, you'll put 6 fraction button 2, and then you just get 3. Now, because I want to run, what do I put under that 3? A 1. And that's your final answer.